Ladies and gentlemen, grab your drinks and popcorn. Today's feature is about to begin. Welcome to Celluloid Codswallop. Hello and welcome to an episode of Celluloid Codswallop. Now, I am flying solo again because unfortunately Gemma is unwell, but, it's always good. I've got a brilliant, wonderful guest on, and the great thing is we've even got a return guest, which a lady we've had on before, Emma Meligne. Emma, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Well, thank you for coming on again. Now, for those, the tadpoles who have listened previously, when you were on Emma, you were talking all about your work and the great things you do as a cosplayer. And we touched upon in that kind of like chat and interview, your love of horror films.
That's right. Yep.
And
got a few props hanging about. About horror movies. Yep.
I thought, who better to have on to discuss Nightmare on Elm Street than you?
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite franchises. So I hope I'm not going to make a fool of myself because I haven't watched them in a long time. So
do not worry. I'm sure you'll probably know more than I do, but this will be like a bit of a freewheeling chat. And what just to let the tadpoles in on a really cool thing, Emma has a proper Freddy style glove, which just look absolutely amazingly brilliant.
Yeah, from part 3, which is my favorite of the franchise. It was made by Trick or Treat. They're really famous for making horror props, and it's usually fairly good quality for the price. But yeah, they made like several gloves from almost every part, and it's all metal, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's really, really cool.
It does look really, really good. And I'm going to talk to you a bit more about that. But just to set the scene, we're going to be discussing as best we can the whole Elm Street franchise, or touch on as much as we can discuss and remember.
Yep.
But I was rewatching the original film, and it's always quite interesting to think because it kicked off, in 1984. And it all sprang, in my memory serves me correctly, from an experience Wes Craven had where when he was younger he'd seen a very scary guy looking in, I think, the window at the apartment he lived in.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was from his bedroom window or something like that. Yeah.
And it kind of really stuck with him. And then as time went on, he created this horror character in the form of Freddy Krueger, who in some iterations has been a child killer, and then some iterations it's been suggested as a child molester and a killer, and obviously not a nice person to meet. But it was interesting to see the person he cast in the role. So it wasn't like when you look at, say, Jason, it's kind of like a big imposing figure. But he cast Robert Englund, who's known as like I think he was, from what I can remember, trained with like kind of looking at Shakespeare's acting. He was probably best known for the VTV series at that point. He was not a guy. Right. He's not a guy you'd associate with kind of being terrifying and scary. When you look at him as a person, he's actually an incredibly nice chap. I've met him.
Yes, me too. he's amazing. Yeah.
And a really nice guy. And the thing, my kind of link to the film goes back to when I was a kid, because I always remember seeing, and it's very interesting when you mention that part 3 is your favorite, seeing the videotape for that, and always thinking, wow, this looks kind of interesting. And I remember I was too young to see, but I was saying to my dad, like, what is this? And he told me all about the first Nightmare film. He said, yes, it's quite a scary film to see before Freddy became this kind of like, I guess, almost like a comical figure, more of a figure that you kind of saw
it's like a pop culture figure now.
Yes.
You know, people literally, even kids had like pajamas with like Freddy Krueger's, you know, stripes of his jumper. It's just insane. But yeah, it was just like a weird pop culture figure. A bit morbid, but
well, it's kind of weird that he became this pop culture figure and this thing that people, you know, he was in like music videos and you'd see him at events and things. And you talk about a character that's a child killer.
Yes, and molester. It's just insane. But this is what movies do, you know. It's just we obviously kind of like glorify serial killers in some way, but people obviously know this is not real, and so I think human beings always like kind of attracted to the morbid. It's just how it is. People, you know, watch like serial killers documentaries and they're like intrigues, and it's not because people like it. It's just that we try to understand and like, you know, try to connect with like, you know, kind of like why these people would do these kind of things, and we try to understand. And obviously, I think this is kind of like why horror movies, you know, characters like that are just so glorified. It's just because we know it's not real, but at the same time, it's just extremely morbid and intriguing. It's just,
True. And how did you first, I mean, we obviously touched upon the fact that we both enjoy this franchise. How did you first kind of become aware of the Nightmare on Elm Street films and Freddy, and what kind of drew your attention to like
Oh my God. I must have been a teenager, because obviously I didn't watch them when they were released because I wasn't born. But I wasn't really allowed to watch horror movies as a kid. So a lot of these movies I watched when I was a teenager, and when I started to like really get my head into pop culture movies, and, you know, it kind of like started with like Rocky Horror Picture Shows, and, you know, like trying to like, it was just me digging on the internet, I think, at this point. And then I got really interested about all these big horror movie franchises, and I thought, this is really cool, because it's so, especially in the 80s, I feel like they had to be very imaginative with the way they had to deal with, you know, the gruesome, I would say. And I thought it was absolutely amazing. And you know that I have obviously a love for art in general, but like especially in these movies, you know, people were like using animatronics, they were using robotics, and it was like, you know, they were really trying to like find the best way to make things you know, look real, and obviously they didn't have CGI and all that stuff, and it's just absolutely incredible what they could make as a team, and especially on low budget, especially in the 80s. I feel like all of these horror movie franchises, especially when they started, they were on really low budget.
And it is quite an amazing thing to think how much, looking at 80s horror in general, which I still think has spawned the best kind of horror we have. You know, the films I go back to, but if you look at Elm Street, you know, like the burn effect for Freddy, and the effects where he's doing things like cutting off his own fingers and things, it's all going to be a practical effect.
Exactly.
Where I think Elm Street really works is that it is something we can all relate to. And I don't mean like, you know, the weirdness and horror of what Freddy is, but we can all relate to dreams. We can all relate to having scary dreams and nightmares that terrify you. And it's very interesting when you also look at the film, because in a lot of horror films, you get a huge elaborate backstory for the bad guy.
Yes.
And you don't really get that in Elm Street, which kind of surprised me when I rewatched it. It's almost like a bit of a throwaway line discussing.
Yeah, especially the first one. I feel like obviously after like, I think around part 4, they really started to like dig into his past. But you kind of get thrown into it in part 1, and you're like, what the heck is this guy? You know, like it's very interesting.
because you got like a whole estate. Well, they did like an episode. They even span off a TV series to this.
Yes, I've never watched it though.
Yes, it's good. Well, I've never properly watched it apart from the first episode, but that gives you a proper kind of background of where Freddy came from. They did the court case and all that kind of stuff, and showing, for those who don't know, spoiler alert, but we are talking a film from 1984. Freddy, again, the thing I always wonder is, did he really do what they're saying he did? Was he mistaken identity? But that's kind of a bit of a grey area. But he's hunted down by the local parents of the area and set on fire and dies and becomes this awful murdering nightmare character.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole story of like Amanda Kruger, his mother, being locked in a mental institution when she's a nun and being raped by other people, and that created this evil entity.
I know.
I sometimes wonder, is it possible that Freddy's done nothing and he's just been?
I feel like no. There's obviously. I feel like it tracked very well with the backstory of Freddy Krueger, but it's. I wanted to add actually that Freddy Krueger was. Like Wes Craven got inspired by a bully that he had at school named Fred Krueger. Literally, that was his name. And I'm like, how this guy never sued? Does he know? Literally.
That's
the most evil.
It's
insane. It's like the most evil character in like every home. Like everybody knows him, but like. This is insane. Like, he literally has the same name. But, yeah. It's so interesting.
You are right. Everybody does know because the entire image is iconic. The jumper, the glove, the mask. And I also love when you look at the original film, who's one of the main people we've got in it? A really young Johnny Depp.
Yes. Was it known before this movie? Like, I haven't really digged into Johnny Depp's, before fame, I would say.
I don't believe he was that. He was in 21 Jump Street, but that could be around the same sort of time. But I think he only, as I understand it, he turned up to the audition, and I think one of his friends might have been auditioning for it. He did it on just like a whim, and that's where it went from. And he's become this huge star. Within this film, it's probably only the second worst thing that's ever happened to him in bed.
Right. Oh, wow.
We won't linger on that. But what, it's a very interesting film. Some elements of it really do make me laugh. Like when she's trying to get, when Nancy basically works out how she can battle Freddy, and she's like screaming for help. She seems to be quite ignored by the police.
Yeah. This is what's scary about these movies as well. It's just you can't really, like, nobody can believe you. It's just so far fetched. But like, I remember like, obviously the first person you see killed is Tina. And it's just like, I think this is the best, it's so morbid, but it's like the best killing scene I probably had seen. Because it's just, you never seen this before. The way like she literally flew onto the ceiling and then like she was struggling. It's just so weird. It's like something you can't see, And this is what was really terrifying, I felt like. And nobody can believe you, like, because it's something that happens in your dreams. And
and it is kind of amazing to think for an opening of the film, like when I said you don't get a major kind of big build up to who Freddy is, or Fred, as he's this Christmas being Fred Krueger. The film literally dumps you straight into the start of her having a nightmare and the reaction to it. And then she finds out that it's happened in reality, and it's gone into the real world. Her clothes are slashed, and then she's having like freak out dreams and things from it. And you are right, it's quite a shocking. You're right. When she's killed him, it's like she's going around the entire room. That's really messed up.
It's really messed up, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not a joke. I get it now, but it was really interesting actually in that scene. If I do remember, they had one of those big rotating set. So, when she was actually on the ceiling, she was actually on the floor. And, they were like rotating this entire bedroom. And I think they used that several times throughout the franchise. And it's one of those things as well. You're like, this is absolutely insane. And I remember a story where they were like, I can't remember exactly which scene. I think it was actually for Johnny Depp's scene. But like, when there's like this entire like blood pouring. The room was actually upside down, and they were like, it was actually insane because the blood was so heavy that the room kept spinning, and they were like, oh my god, people are like all the technicians were like flying around. It's like, what's happening? They kept the scene because it was absolutely amazing, but they're like, they didn't know what to do. And it's just, it's like things like that. It's just absolutely incredible. Like in the 80s, all the practical effects. Yeah.
It is true, because I mean, I love watching the first one, seeing the practical effects being done. I mean, like, I love the scene where Freddy starts coming through the wall, which is obviously just against like a rubber background. But I mean, it looks phenomenal as an image. And you're right, when it comes to this huge explosion of blood going everywhere, it's to think that's all done practically is quite amazing. But
I know they were literally just throwing a bucket from the ceiling. And obviously they returned the picture, but it's just it's absolutely insane.
I mean, one thing I always find really strange watching this film is that obviously all these people are getting killed in the dreams, and it's creating major problems. So, Nancy gets taken off to see a sleep doctor, who's interestingly played by the same man who voices Roger Rabbit.
Ooh, yes.
But also who seems very, very new to his job. He doesn't seem to really know what dreams are.
Yeah. Charles Fleischer, isn't it?
Yes, that's the one, Charles Fleischer, the man.
Actually, I talk to him time to time because we know each other.
Brilliant. And, wow.
Yeah. And it does this amazing. I don't know if you've seen. I'm sorry. I'm kind of like going off breath. But like it does these amazing paintings, and it's so surreal. It's like surrealist. But like when you look at them, you're like, yeah, this is Charles Fleischer. Like this is him. It's just wow. He has like his mind is absolutely incredible. Like, and he's so talented. And but it's a cool dude.
No, I'd love to see. I'll have to work out somewhere I can see the stuff that he's done, because he's
you
brilliant.
Should. Yes.
Brilliant. Very interesting man. But his character in this seems to not really know about his chosen topic. What he actually works is, because he gives a very kind of like, I don't know, they're all kind of like the weird illusions. No one really knows what dreams are. Really? This is his job.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's like when you look at the characters in general within the film, that some of them are just really weird, because there's like with Johnny Depp's character, they refer to him as a jock, and I'm looking at Johnny Depp thinking, really?
Yeah.
Wearing a very feminine cut-off top, and
yeah. I mean, maybe it was the 80s joke. I don't know. But it did look kind of proper, like like a normal kid. Yeah, it doesn't. I feel like, maybe jocks evolved into something different, because I feel like we have more like the pictures of the jocks in the 90s because all of the teenager movies,
That's true.
But maybe.
I just thought it'd be, I'm thinking a jock. I was thinking a big kind of stocky, muscular guy, which is not something you think of.
And like a proper arsehole, it's not, it's kind of sweet. Like it's not, it's so weird.
But it's the whole... what I also like about the film is you're not presented with people who were kind of like perfect characters. You look at Nancy's family. I think her parents are divorced, aren't they? Dad's like the sheriff or the head of the police. Her mother seems to be a bit of a lush, and he's basically drunk 98% of the time by the looks of things. And nobody kind of believes her.
Yeah.
It's a very, she's in I guess it's like the no-win situation. It's just, you said, who's going to believe you? Be saying, well, actually, there's a mad burnt killer with a metal glove stalking my dreams and killing everybody. Yeah. It's not going to be something you kind of buy into.
Yeah, but I feel it's also why Freddy Krueger might target those kids. It's because they're already into some sort of dysfunctional families, you know, and so easy targets, kind of. Maybe.
Very true, very true. I mean, I think, again, we're jumping all over on the film a bit, but touch on this, on the practical effects. The scene where the mother is killed is a brilliant effect. I mean, the whole thing of the whole sinking through the bed, the fire thing, the lot, it's interesting. It would all be done with CG now, and it'd look, I think, nowhere near as impressive or good as it could be.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, this is why I think it's why people are so nostalgic about the 80s. It's just all of these practical effects. It feels closer at home somehow. It's just really strange, but like it was so much better. You know, it's more believable to some extent. But yeah.
And what I found very interesting when you look at the film is it's kind of fast paced. You know, when I rewatched it, it's not an incredibly short run film for its runtime, but it's got comedy and it moves. Nothing is kind of bogged down with it. As I said, you don't get a massive backstory for Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
You see him killing various different people in horrible ways. You see the impact that's having in the real world. It then shifts to I'm only laughing because after Johnny Depp's character has been killed and the sort of saying basically to the family, you know, you can see him, it'll be fine. The whole police interaction with the family seems kind of pretty much fast and loose. There's no kind of like caring for them. No. Poor Nancy's across trying to shout out to the police. I do like the part she says to like the guy she says to one of the police officers basically like, get my dad, you asshole.
These movies are so quotable as well. Like, it's just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it is really fast paced. Yeah. I should have rewatched it before. I really came unprepared because I feel like I haven't watched that in like 2 years.
Don't worry. Do not worry. I mean, one of the big things that is distracting about the film is that throughout the entire film, and it's even in the trivia comments I read, Heather Langenkamp has this big zit on her head that just seems to constantly be noticeable.
Right. Yeah, I don't recall that.
I can promise when you watch it, it will catch your eye.
So now that I know it. Oh, God.
But I always like within the film, and I think it became more prevalent as the series went on, that certain like elements where there's humour when she sets up a trap to stop Freddy, like he gets hit in the groin with a big hammer. And he's like falling around and hurting himself. It shows the elements of humour. But again, the fast-paced move of the film towards the end is the thing that gets me. It goes from this kind of the horror thing, everything's gone awful, you think the mother's dead, to then you're going out into what looks like the nice outside, where it's all kind of sunny and everything's going to be great and fine. Which in hindsight, it's obvious it isn't.
Yes.
You know, she's in the car with everybody who's already dead.
Yes. Yeah.
I
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really shows that it's, you know, because it's a dream, you can't really kill him. I mean, they do that in every end of movies. I'm pretty sure every movie has like this sort of endings, except maybe the Final Nightmare. But
well, the end of the film also, again, if you've not seen it, sorry, spoilers, people, where they realise that, you know, the car's going away and the mother gets suddenly pulled through through the door, the glass of the door, which is an obvious model of her. Made me think of the Phantasm films, because they always end with someone being pulled through glass by Tom or one of his minions.
I feel like I wouldn't be surprised it got inspired, I'll be honest with you, because I feel like there's like a little, you know, nods to other movies from like the 70s. But yeah, you're right.
And I worship at the shrine of I mean, I love the Phantasm films. I think that as much as I love the Elm Street run, Phantasm is high on my list. It's probably the top of my list. Now, you would think that, Freddy, it could have been it, Nightmare on Elm Street, bump, it'd all be finished, but it spun off a huge number of sequels, ever changing in style. Now, I'm going to hopscotch because you were saying that the third one is your favourite. So tell me why you like that one so much. What's the particular appeal on that?
So I feel like, first of all, the original soundtrack is amazing. This has the best music in all of them. But also, I feel like the dynamic kind of changed in this one because so you have this group of kids that come together and kind of like find a way, to kill Freddy, but like all together. And it's kind of interesting the way they played with the dream and like how they understood that it was their dreams and they could, pretty much be anything they want in those dreams. And I thought it was kind of like a different turn on how they were, with the previous movies, it was very different. And I really did like that because they also like got a little bit more imaginative with, with the dream aspect as well. I feel like,
the third one was the Dream Warriors, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
And that's again, probably for me, I don't think I've probably seen number 2, but I'm going to mention it doesn't stick in my head, but Dream Warriors does, just for some of the sheer, I mean, very imaginative deaths in it, particularly the TV.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is great.
The TV thing where, one of the main characters is pulled in.
Yeah.
And I remember Heather Langenkamp returned in that one, I think, didn't she, in the Dream Warriors? So I got that right?
Nancy,
yeah. So it was, as you said, because it had, it expanded on the fact that it was kind of a larger cast. They were showing elements where they had control, they could do things.
Yes.
I think of that, is that the Welcome to Primetime line?
Yes.
Again,
it has so many. Yes, it has so many. It's just, I love this so much because I think this is also the turning point where people started to kind of like him because it kind of got a little bit funnier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like it started really to do like play on words and like be really sassy and it's a good movie and like and not everybody died at the end of it, which is kind of nice. Yeah. And
you are right. It's strange that he goes from being this horrific, evil character to almost a figure of mirth and fun, with comeback lines.
Yeah. It was very, obviously, it kind of made me think it's obviously a little bit better, but it kind of made me think of like Child's Play and, it's just, Chucky was kind of like this same character in terms of like the kind of funny, but like, sassy and it's just, I think this is why these characters are so popular because they find humor in like the most horrific ways.
And putting Freddy to one side within the, Dream Warriors, do you have a particular favourite character within that film?
I mean, Kristen is cool. Also, like, I haven't watched that in so long, so I can't remember everybody's names. But like the kid that obviously he dies, but I thought it was really cool. The kid that was on the wheelchair, and like in his dreams, it kind of like it started to like become someone that he wanted to become and fight his fears. And I thought that was really, really cool as well. It was a really diverse cast when you think about it as well. Like,
no, it was an incredibly diverse cast actually for that film. And it's commented upon by quite a few documentaries because I think it had a guy who was, I think one of the characters was gay. I don't know if they were openly gay within it, but they were kind of like an empowered character within that film. And it's interesting that you saw that kind of level of diversity within that kind of film. And it was the way the franchise kind of shifted and went on. I mean, when he got to Freddy's Dead, that was supposed to be the final kind of film, I always felt that was a bit of a letdown in the way they finished it. Okay, so he, like all the weird kind of evil spirits within Freddy vanish and dissipate and all that kind of stuff. And that is supposedly it. It's over, it's finished. I think at that point, possibly even, Robert Englund had got sick of it and it had become too much of an amusing thing. And I suspect even to a degree, Wes Craven had washed his hands of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also because they didn't do all well in box office.
That's true.
Also Wes Craven, they changed. There's literally a director in like a complete different director in each movie. So I think there was also like kind of was it New Line Cinema that produced it?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there was also like a battle with the guys at New Line Cinema because obviously it was kind of their baby. And Wes Craven, I think there was a fight in between those guys, and it wasn't, always going smoothly, I'd say. So,
but it was. I mean, I remember with like, Freddy's Dead. One of my friends was telling me, basically how the film ended, and I was like, really, that's it? That's how they're finishing it off? And it was like, so that will be it. There'll be no more. And obviously, we then got A New Nightmare.
Yes.
Which I love. A lot of people don't seem to dig that film, but I think it's brilliant. And I find that the way Freddy is designed in that far more terrifying than in any of the other films we've seen him in. And I mean, what a brilliant idea that was to kind of try to cross it from being, it's, we kind of see it now with films where you're trying to get them to almost cross into like different universes and into the real world. But this great idea of saying, well, actually, the reason these films were made was to, to keep some evil entity within the character in the film. Yeah. And you cross into having them playing themselves. And
it was very Inception. It's like Inception kind of thing. I mean, definitely not. It's not my favorite either. Because I think it's just like too much. I feel like it denatured a little bit the main storyline, I guess. But it was interesting. Like they obviously take a different turn in every movies, and which is why it's also it's a good franchise because of that as well.
Well, I like it if it's nice to hear different. If it was all me just saying what I love, there'd be no fun in doing this kind of stuff. So, but I did find that appearance and style of him far more disturbing. Like the glove was kind of like built into the hand. Well, it wasn't even a glove, really. It was like built into his hand. The whole makeup looked more scary. And it kind of worked for me on that. But it shows what. It got to that point, the way to change things up and see how things could be different and have the people playing themselves, some elements more successful than others within that. Though I'll say Wes Craven's a better actor, or was a better actor than I thought it would be.
It was all right.
We also saw him for a small bit with Jay and Silent Bob, so it wasn't too bad. But it's interesting to then see that, Freddy got turned into a crossover character where they made Freddy versus Jason. Now, I'm intrigued to see what you think of that, Emma.
Actually, really, I know I can't remember how it was received, but I did like it. I thought it was really good because I also really like Friday the 13th. So it's, I prefer Nightmare on Elm Street because I feel like Friday the 13th is really good, but it's kind of like the same pretty much synopsis every time. But like, I really, really enjoy that. I mean,
the weird thing for me is that was a film I remember. I didn't see the cinema, but I do remember sitting and watching it with my dad, and my dad's not a huge horror fan, but I think even he got enjoyment out of it. But it's, it's this strange thing, isn't it? That, Freddy and, I guess, Jason also crossed over into comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're not comic books for children in any shape or form, but they are interesting. So it gives you a bit more of kind of story. I remember reading a few of those and finding it quite interesting. But I always think, was, Freddy versus Jason, was there a lost opportunity where we could have had Freddy against maybe an even more interesting character? Because I know you have the obvious differences in the fact that, the idea is that Freddy is manipulated, that the children have all forgotten about him and he's no longer able to kill people. So he basically puppet controls, Jason to go and kill people when he poses as his mother in the dreams. And we see bits of history for the, for the characters, and it's quite, again, there's that element of humor. So I guess I wouldn't say it's like the most disturbing horror known to man to watch that, but it's got, it has got jump scares and elements to it. But I kind of wonder, could Freddy have been put up against a villain that maybe would have suited him a bit more on a disturbing psychological level?
Like Hellraiser, maybe?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was rumoured they wanted to have him in the...
like Pinhead, maybe.
Yeah, to have Pinhead in it. They couldn't get the rights. Because that whole thing came from the end of one of the Friday the 13th films, didn't it? Where you saw the gloved hand pop out the grave and drag the mask down. So it's one of these things that have been in the, in brewing as a creation for a very, very long time. But I think Pinhead could have been a far more interesting character to put him up against.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, but I think Pinhead is like literally the first that came to my mind.
And physically, I think they'd probably a better match.
Yes, yeah. But it's kind of interesting also the way they battle, because obviously Jason is like such a big guy and Freddy is like, this little dude. I see what you mean.
I mean, the other thing is that, like, there have been so many other different kind of crossovers with Freddy. Because if memory serves me, I think there was a crossover then with The Evil Dead at one point in a comic book form, which would probably have worked quite amazingly if they'd actually got it, onto the silver screen.
Yeah.
To see something like that panning out with Ash would have been.
Yeah, actually, that'd be cool.
From an amusing point, because they're both pretty good at quips.
Yes. Now,
unfortunately, we come to probably the worst thing, which is Deep Breath, the remake.
Oh, yeah. I only watched that once, so...
We're very similar on that one.
Yes. And it was a very long time ago. I'm pretty sure I watched it when I was a teenager. I haven't watched it since. Because when was it released? Like 2000...
I'm not sure, but it could be
2010?
something like that.
Yeah, I think.
Maybe something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I was like 20. End of my teenage years. It wasn't. I think that obviously, it wasn't like subtle anymore. I think that was one of the issues that I had, because even though you kind of know that Freddy Krueger is kind of like this child molester and everything, it's not really out there in the original franchise. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of still kind of like speculate, of what it really has done.
Well, you're right, because with the remake, it really was up on Front Street, showing exactly what he was supposed to have done. I mean, I had high hopes for that. I was thinking this could really kind of work. They had a very good cast within it.
Yeah.
The burn makeup looked reasonably close to, I guess, as realistic. I think I remember reading an interview. They said they wanted to get even worse with it, but they reckon it would have just been too
much
graphic.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't Robert Englund. I think that's also
that's
the thing, isn't it? Like this character is Robert Englund. I feel like there's nobody else can really play him. He has such like a stance, and I think this is why he kept coming back as well. Like this is him. So yeah, maybe also that was why. You could tell it wasn't the same character somehow.
Yeah, and I was unfortunately in the same position, I guess, that you've been in, that I watched it once and I've never felt the need to go back to it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, God, this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame because, I don't think Robert Englund, I mean, interestingly, when you talk about Robert Englund being Freddy, there were rumours they might want to try it again. And interestingly, I mean, Robert Englund said he has no interest in playing the part again, but he suggested Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon?
That's the person Robert Englund himself has suggested would be a good replacement for him.
Really? I don't see it.
I mean, well, the things I was thinking, Kevin Bacon isn't that young. If you want a franchise, surely you're going to need someone who's going to be able to carry several films. You might want somebody who starts out pretty young and then goes from there and carries on. Kevin Bacon would not be my choice.
Yeah, no, neither for me. I mean, what was his name? The guy who played the new Pennywise was pretty good.
Skarsgård, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could maybe see him because he also has the build a little bit, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's taller than Robert Englund, but he kind of has like this kind of presence that maybe could work. And he did a phenomenal job on Pennywise. Like, I'm sure he could take any kind of horror character and make it his own. Yeah,
no, I think that's very true. I think that would work. But it will be a very hard act to follow, and I think that's the problem they had when they remade it. I mean, if it was me, if I was going to try and look at doing any kind of reboot, so to speak, I would probably I'd throw truckloads of cash at Robert Englund. And I'd work on the idea of doing what they did with the Halloween films, what they're going to do with the new Exorcist film, which is do a direct sequel of some sort. I know you love number 3, so no offense to Emma, but, just to do some kind of direct sequel to the first one that ignores anything else that's happened and see where they could go from there. That is what I would do, and I think it would be quite interesting if you saw that, to maybe have this idea that Freddy's been lurking in the background for a very long time, and where it would go from there. But hey, that's just my idea. What would you do if you were given the keys and told the keys, so to speak, and told, right, run with it?
I mean, I would probably continue the first movie as well. Like, I feel like, because it kind of established, the character, and and I know it's like coming back to the source, really. So I would probably do that. I mean, because as much as I love part 3, or like part 4, it's just that it's obviously a little, like I said earlier, it's like a different dynamic, but like come back to the proper horror maybe, and extend on that from the first movie. That could be interesting, definitely. Yeah, I could see that.
Because even though really, sorry, go on.
No. I was like, even though I know like nobody likes part 2, but like I thought it was really interesting the way, obviously Freddy Krueger kind of like tried to personify himself through his victim. I thought that was also really clever because it can't be out there in the real world, So maybe extending on that could also be interesting, actually. Yeah.
And what could be very interesting, excuse me, if they did do the, just pimping my idea out here, if they did the idea of going from the original, doing a direct sequel, is bring back as many people as you can from the original film who are still with us, have them as more, as the real age reflecting changes in the world, and you could see what the impact Freddy had was. Again, like they kind of do with the Halloween films, where you're seeing, how messed up Laurie is from what happened to her.
Yes. Yeah,
well,
I could see that.
What I really want to ask you about, Emma, is because you know some people who have been involved in this, the actual Elm Street work. Tell me more.
I mean, we're not like friends, but like obviously I know I've chatted before with Mark Patton, for instance, who's absolutely adorable. Like is so sweet. And yeah, time to time we talk and like ask each other how we're doing, and and he made like a documentary not so long ago, I think, about his experience on part 2 and obviously what had happened, because it kind of disappeared completely after the movie, and because it had hurt his career. And so yeah, if you're interested, it's called Scream Queen, and but yeah, I would definitely recommend this because it's really, really interesting. But yeah, it's just the sweetest. And obviously I met a few other like in conventions and things like that, but yeah, Mark Patton is probably the only one we kind of chat time to time.
And who have you met at the conventions?
Okay, so my God, so Kristen from part 4, her name is not coming back to me, but Robert Englund, Mark Patton, 2014, 15, maybe 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I met Robert Englund, and that would be at Birmingham. We can share our experiences of both meeting Robert Englund, who was just the coolest, nicest guy.
He's adorable.
Oh God, he was
so
brilliant.
Sweet.
And I went to get I had my pitch taken with him at the convention in Birmingham, and he just, I don't know if this is how he was with you, but with me, I just loved it. Most of the time you go, it's a pitch, it's just you stand next to each other.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you, nice to meet you, shake hands.
Yeah.
This is not the case when you meet Robert Englund. He's come to me, right, strangle me.
Yeah. I know.
I'm like, okay. first guy I met for the entire day. Hands around his neck, picture. And what a guy.
He's really cheeky. Yeah. Yeah, I just got his autograph. But yeah, it's really funny. And yeah, you can tell he's trying to like take the time for his fans. It's not like, okay, next. It's actually, like, how are you? What's your name? It's kind of nice.
It was brilliant for that because the actual he showed real interest.
Exactly.
Because I was with a couple of my friends and they had pictures with them as well. That was their big thing. They wanted to meet Robert Englund. And each person, it was different. It was a bit of fun. It was showing interest in them. I'm very impressed more than anything that you got his autograph, because when at the convention I was at where he was there, the queue to get his autograph went on and on.
Yes. Is very popular.
I think the only way I managed to get a picture with him was the fact that we literally went for like the first photographs of the day, and I think even that was quite a big queue. But, and what was it you got him to sign?
Oh, just a picture that he had on his table. Like, I wasn't really prepared.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, I have like a really cool poster, you know, of the glove, and I have like a few signatures from the other members of the cast on there. But yeah, like Robert Englund is the first one I've ever met, so it's just like I was really unprepared and a bit starstruck. So I was like, what did you get to sign?
I didn't get anything signed because I literally could not.
I
looked at the queue. Yeah. I couldn't face the queue, but at least I got the picture. But my God, when he said strangle me, he says he goes, right, hands on my throat, strangle me. I'm like, okay,
I'm not surprised.
But this guy's cool.
So funny.
And he did make it fun.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued because obviously I have seen the wonderful kind of cosplaying things you do. Have you ever dressed as Freddy?
No, but I do have the glove.
You do have the glove is just so cool.
Yeah,
that is really unbelievable. Cool. Was that a hard thing to buy? Was that one of these things that was very expensive to get?
I mean, not really. I think they did. I'm pretty sure they're still available on their website. But no, it's fine. It's obviously not perfect. There's definitely some stuff I would change, which I probably will eventually, like the paint job and whatnot. But they're still really good. It's all metal, and it's definitely a decent replica.
So it's not been as tricky as say it was for you when you're getting certain Back to the Future collectibles. I remember as discussing.
No. I mean, there's a difference between obviously a manufactured prop from a company and vintage props that people, you know, have used in movies 30 or 40 years ago. It's just, some stuff are definitely more difficult to acquire.
So moving off the Elm Street, if I can ask you, what have you got anything in the pipeline that you're looking to put together on your props or your cosplay stuff that's you can tell us about?
So I'm still working on my Ryan from Dark Crystal. So I'm doing that. I do I do have like a few bits and pieces I need to finish for like other cosplays. I need to put up my reveal pictures from Hook. I do also have a Brides of Chucky cosplay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, some of these stuff are pretty much all there. Like I just have to, you know, put it on and like take pictures and see how that looks. But yeah, I do have like a handful I need to finish. But yeah, it's been kind of like I try to slow down because work has been a bit busy and but yeah.
And what's the most recent? Because I've not been to conventions for absolutely ages. I think I was going to say, what's the most recent one you've been to? I'm also staring at my Back to the Future poster, thinking that I'm pretty sure there's been some Back to the Future stuff that's recently been done, hasn't there? I think there's been a convention. I think was it somewhere in Wales? There's been one on where somebody has been from the cast. And that's terrible because the name of the lady escapes me entirely. But she played Jennifer originally.
Claudia Wells?
Pardon?
Claudia Wells?
Oh, yes, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah, she does a lot of conventions.
She does.
Yeah. She's really sweet.
See, you beaten me because I've not met. The only person I've met is Christopher Lloyd. So
I love Christopher Lloyd.
He was a really nice man, really nice guy.
Yes.
I'm gonna swerve onto the Back to the Future again with you, Emma. Have you seen the musical?
Yes. So
what is it like?
So I went to the premiere in Manchester So that was the first time. Yeah. So I went to the premiere in Manchester and I went to the press release in Manchester. Then he moved to London. I haven't watched the show in London, but I did go to the premiere in Broadway. So in New York.
I'm so jealous.
It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, yeah, it's great. The songs are fun. It's just like a big ball of energy, you know, it getting thrown into your face, and it's really good. And the effects are like really, really good. Like, you know, the moving cars and everything. Like it's like a mix of practical effect and CGI and, you know, and 3D, and it's really, really well done. Yeah. And the cast is always brilliant. Like, they pick really amazing people.
Yeah, because I really wanted to see it in Manchester, but I never got the chance. And then COVID hit and everything went down the Swanee, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've gathered, like, one of the cool things for people who've been at Manchester on the opening one is that how easily accessible people were at it. Because that's it. Bob Gale, who's another person I've met.
Yes.
But Bob Gale was there and was just like, I think was Alan Silvestri there as well.
Yep. Alan Silvestri.
Wandering around outside.
There was, I actually met Robert Zemeckis. Zemeckis was there. Yeah. Bob Gale, Alan Silvestri, Class Terrain as well was there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was incredible. But like, some people actually, because at the press release in Broadway, which was after the premiere, apparently they had like Steven Spielberg sitting in the middle of the theater. It's just mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening, thinking, "Hang on, you've swerved onto to a totally different topic of Back to the Future the musical." The question I'm going to take you to is this. So they've made Back to the Future into a musical. Yes. And this will sound odd, but they've also made American Psycho into a musical. So could they make Nightmare on Elm Street as a musical? And I think they probably could. I think that could work.
That could work. Why nobody has ever done this?
I don't know.
That would definitely work.
I think we might hit on something.
But then I don't know how they would do the death scenes like on stage like that. I
think they'd find a way. And let's be honest, it's nightmare stuff, so you can make some amazing visual stuff. I need to get onto New Line Cinema now.
I have to like pitch the idea now.
Yep. But can you imagine how seriously freaky that could be? And I think they could do some of the really weird deaths, blood stuff, because they did it with American Psycho on stage with like managing to, where there were blood effects. So I think it could be done. My God, I think I've come up with something quite interesting there.
Yeah, actually, I would definitely go to that. Yeah, sign me up.
We've definitely hit upon something for the future then. Well, as we're coming up to an hour, I think we've probably been talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise in enough detail, Emma. So I just want to say a big thank you for being our guest for this episode and coming on and talking to me about it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And just with regard to kind of like your props and cosplay stuff, if there's any way people can, if they want to have a look at things or get in contact with you, is there a way the best doing that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. So it's Emma Meligne, EMMAMELIGNE. So sorry, it's very French. But you can also find me under Emma in Candyland on Facebook. So just like Alice in Wonderland, but Emma in Candyland. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's great. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.